in thinking about how you're working and communicating with people, having known you for quite some time now, I mean, you're the absolute epitome of somebody who can connect the dots that nobody else sees. Connecting dots from people to companies, companies to people, companies to companies. But I also know that that's not exactly who you've been your entire life. At one point, right? Maybe even no interest in people and relationships.
Yep.
So, what changed over time, and how did you begin to realize that you did have this skill set, maybe even naturally, and how did you continue to sharpen it?
That is a great question. So I just want to reframe and explain. I had no interest in external networking. I was the best internal networker you've ever seen. I would meet people in the elevator. I ate lunch any day that I wasn't traveling on business. I ate lunch in the company cafeteria, and I would meet people. I would sit down at tables because I had learned that from the leaders who had sat down when I was sitting at a table. But it was really in 2007, I knew with 3 little kids that I could not keep up the pace of constant travel. And so I thought, what am I going to do next that doesn't require me to be on the road constantly, both globally as well as in the US? And so I started small. I joined a board in Winnetka, and it was a women's board, the Winnetka Community House. I ended up staying on that board for 12 years, and I'm currently board chair of the Board of Governors. I have a tendency to join organizations and then stay with them as they grow and as I take on different roles. But what I did, what I've always been good at, is connecting people. The difference was that it was internally at Northern. But I hadn't kept up with a lot of my college roommates. Life is hard when you are in a 2-career couple and your children are growing up. My parents also live nearby. I spend a lot of time with my mom and dad. So Kyle, it was a time and energy thing. People who know me now think, oh, she must have always served on all of these boards. And the answer is no. I did my job really, really well. I built my teams well. I didn't have any bandwidth to serve on external boards because all of that time went to my family. So in 2007, I told you I started small. And then I took on another organization, Counseling Center of the North Shore. I ended up becoming board chair there. I ran for election in Winnetka, in the Winnetka Northfield Library District Board. This is my 7th year. I'll actually leave that board in May. And people say, why do you do these specific things? It's because they're meaningful to me. When my dad was a grad student when I was born, money was tight. My dad, literally, my mom and dad took us to the library virtually every single free day. That's where I learned to read. My mom participated in the babysitting group where she could read, and then she would babysit. This was before like people were checking in people's backgrounds or whatever. You could babysit, you could sign up for a time. You'd get a free hour to yourself. It was wonderful. I have such fond memories of the Evanston Public Library. And so libraries are just really important, I think, in communities.
I would do some similar things. I remember the library when I was a child. They had the movie room. They had the beanbag room. Exactly. I remember going there very often. Yeah, being dropped off with a stranger to babysit, right? No background.
Right. I mean, it was the same at the YWCA, which I know we have a mutual friend. I'm such a fan of Dory McWhorter. I love the YWCA. It's where I learned to swim. And they had the same babysitting setup too, where if you babysat for other people's kids, you could swim then. So